And it's not really, even though the opportunities, the oppressing institutions, if we conducted ourselves differently, they would not even matter. But we engage in conduct that puts us in the way of the oppressor. In the way of the oppressor. When I talk about, I'm going to do one on reparations by itself. And we're going to go more into that. The ability to think critically is very important for the scammer. You know, the loan scammers, the scammers that come along. It is normal business practice for them to take advantage of the Negro and elderly, because it is known they can be easily deceived. See, we miseducated. We don't understand. We just see the thing dangling in front of our eyes. We don't understand the deception to get there, and the barriers and pitfalls that we placed in front of us. And then down the road, I was in court a few months ago, and this brother was there. He was by himself. He had said he'd been paying this guy on his house for 15 years, and he thought he was paying, he was owning the property, but find out he was being evicted. Find out that he was just paying rent, and he thought he had entered into a sales contract with the owner. He was giving him his extra money every month, and then later on, the guy went into bankruptcy, or the house was being repossessed from him. He lost everything. He's trying to fight it, but of course he did not win. Then he wanted me to help him out. I'm like, bruh, you need to, before you entered into that transaction 15 years ago, you should have sought legal advice. That's what they have escrow for, right? Then all these predatory loans that our people went into earlier, and they didn't seek advice. They just went there, signed on the line, and they got screwed. And even to this day, many, many years beyond slavery, we're still doing the same thing. We won't even go into how much money you have made in your lifetime compared to how much of that money you still have. The song of the foolish, all what I used to have. The economic objective recycles just 10% of the $1.3 trillion back into the community, making it possible to invest in our schools, hospitals, legal system, and new business development in our own communities. We give away our reparations. Every year, every day we get paid, we spend it outside our communities, hoping, just like in a relationship, you're trying to buy your way in a relationship. You spend your money out there, you hope they're gonna like us. That is the most ridiculous thing. The most ridiculous thing. Just like we used to boycott white businesses because they wouldn't take our money instead of creating our own. That was the fork in the road, and we took the wrong path. We're complaining that they won't take our money. But to be honest, anytime we tried to do our own, they would come by and they would bomb them, and they would put us out of business. So it's a plan, it's a scheme that they go along to keep us unbalanced and not knowing, because our minds ain't right and we're not properly educated. And then we don't have someone that you can go to that can fight the battles for you. And that's what this is all about. To be there to educate you, to train you, then be there to fight the battles with you and make sure things are done right at the first time. The next obvious move is to rebuild our communities by targeting the over 50% unemployment rate by providing jobs and opportunities which will come from engaging in this education program and engaging in wealth creation in the spirit of unity. Each one, teach one. I have an example for you. An example of overconsumption. You have a family budget and you are shopping for a new car because your neighbor just bought one and you have a perfectly good automobile you've had for years. And you also have young children. And this is a perfect opportunity to continue adding to your savings of $1,000 per month. Even though it would be tight on the budget and if nothing extra goes wrong, you agree in your mind with you and your significant other that you would only spend an additional $400 per month on a car. And even this will cut into your disposable income figure. Right? You didn't keep a monthly budget. You don't keep a monthly budget. And therefore, you cannot look at your cyclical spending patterns to uncover hidden costs that may come up and eventually spoil your plan of living on a financial, and causing you to live on a financial edge, which is called living from paycheck to paycheck, and especially with children in the house. This extra savings could go to an emergency fund, which will cover an unexpected job loss due to unforeseen circumstances, such as the current global pandemic. When you go to the car dealership, they convince you to purchase an automobile that will be $800 per month. You give in, you and your wife give in, because you're looking at the status and so forth, and you purchase that fancy automobile for $800 per month. So you can one-up your neighbor and look good on the outside to friends and passerby, but miserable on the inside. You have buyer's remorse, but you're stuck with it. You're now living from paycheck to paycheck. Unfortunately, a series of unfortunate events occurs, and now you have a negative cash flow each month. From $1,000, now you've sucked into that, so now you're living from paycheck to paycheck with no wiggle room. Eventually, the debt becomes unmanageable, and you have to file for bankruptcy and give back that fancy car, damaging your reputation with family and friends because they begin to gossip about how foolish you and your wife are with money matters. You can't conduct yourself like the government, who can't file for bankruptcy. This means they still carry the debt on their balance sheets in the trillions of dollars, which grows daily because of interest payments in the billions, which must be made, making the situation even worse, making it where its citizens can't earn interest on its savings. This is like a credit card that has a debt balance which continuously accrues interest, making it where it will take 20 years or more for you to pay it off because you were just making the minimum payments. Now, just imagine when you die. Your credit card balance is passed on to your children to pay, on top of their already debt-ridden lifestyle. This would be a disaster, and your children would curse you daily because their lifestyle is now lowered because of the debt, a generational curse you have passed on to them. This is the case in this country now, where our parents have better opportunities and lifestyles and still overconsume. It has forced those generations of children which came after them to absorb their debts because they are now strapped with trillions of dollars in extra debt, in addition to having to pay more interest on the debt than the interest you can earn on your bank deposits and other investments, digging a deeper and deeper hole due to greed. This overconsumption policy by our government has affected future generations in this country. In America, your personal debt dies with you if the debtor doesn't have any assets. However, our federal government's massive debt continues to grow generation after generation and is robbing future generations of the same or better way of life than our parents. We can see it today with the banks paying 0% interest on deposits. This is a crime against capitalism, which means our leadership has failed us. They have sold our future away to China and other countries where our wealth is creating production without wealth creating production capacity. They've sold it away. We don't even make our own toilet tissue and medicine. This is similar to a person not working and using welfare and credit to live, going further and further in debt, living above their means of repayment, while finances get worse as time goes by. However, creditors get richer while those who overconsume fall further and further behind, falling in love with welfare while poverty becomes a way of life. This means we will all be living in a slave culture for generations to come, meaning it will be difficult for anyone to create real wealth unless as a country we begin producing more than we consume. This is the reason learning to pass wealth from one generation to generation is so important, while making sure our government brings back jobs and opportunities to this country. This will be in addition to those underutilized people in our communities who are becoming more innovative and industrious by creating jobs and opportunities. Rule number 5, investment clubs. Timing is important. Business cycles include recessions which come and go. You have every 3 to 5 years, there's a business cycle. The economy goes up, in about 3 to 5 years, it takes a dive. This is how it works, right? And it's you can count on it. So when the economy is booming and the economy is up, that's when you should hoard cash. So when there is a downturn in the economy, you will have cash on hand to make your money moves. When the market and economy is down, you can go on a shopping spree where property, stocks, and opportunities become cheap. This is how these companies, these investors, were able to come into our community. So after the housing crisis and the economy crashed, now these people they lost their homes, they went into foreclosure, and the property was cheap. It was on sale. People in probate losing their property. Now these investors come into the community. They buy up all this property, right? And then you are displaced. This is how gentrification and urbanization is taking place in our communities, because we engaged in foolish behavior and we allowed them in, not understanding economics, and now we have more homeless on the street. This is also an opportunity for cash-rich investment groups, clubs, to come in and buy up properties and companies, which means instant ownership in properties being acquired and companies being purchased. Like the family discussed above, who had to turn in their fancy car, now someone with cash on hand can come along and purchase it at a bargain price. Rule 6. Money needs to be used in order to be productive. Your money should always be working for you. The program is designed to educate the community and uses new knowledge to generate billions of dollars through our affiliate commission program, MEAS. It is a cash flow generator program. We can level the playing field and begin to soar economically through this program of education, which creates opportunities. And we can only learn the difference between an asset and a liability and adjust our overconsumption and spending habits. Another example. In this country, there used to be what was called debtor's prison. This is where you ended up if you could not pay your bills and went into debt. Your creditor, whom you owed the money to, would file a complaint and you would be put in jail until the debt is paid off. This would make a horrible situation even worse. Now your family, which depends on you for a living, becomes paupers and beggars, possibly living on the streets. Living on the streets if there was no family or friends who could come to your rescue, which is charity, right? They didn't have no welfare then. They didn't have no social programs. Either you made it or you didn't. Today, you will not be put in jail for being in debt, only for non-payment of child support, which is a result of a lack of employment opportunities in our community, assuming that you are not just abandoning your children. This is a result of mistake after mistake, starting with choosing the wrong person in your life to have children with. And I talk to these young people, one of the worst decisions, one of the crucial decisions that you need to make in your life, other than getting an education or a skill or a trade so you can take care of yourself, is hooking up and marrying and having children with the wrong person. Either they can make you or break you. So it's very important that you have that right. As a matter of fact, before you get married, thinking about getting married, you need to take this program so that way you guys have goals, you're moving in the same direction, and you're not at odds with one another. Because every person should have dreams, goals, and aspirations, and another person should not suck their dreams from them or their financial well-being. All right, Rule 7. You should have an education fund, 75-25 rule, where you set aside at least $100 per month to invest in your personal spiritual growth and professional development. Every person should have a mentor and eventually become a mentor. You should have a mentor when you are young and growing up. Stop learning from your mistakes and the mistakes of others as your only source of education. This is called the School of Hard Knocks upside the head. Another name which is called Being from the Streets, and in reality is called Dumbass University, based on your own eventual results, which is incarceration, poverty, and or becoming homeless. This is not using common sense. And once again, common sense is not that common. Common sense is being able to recognize and then take advantage of a great opportunity when it's being presented to you. At its best, life is very complicated, and you can't afford to make too many mistakes because you will end up at the bottom of society begging to scrape out a living, depending on others for you and your children's survival, which is charity. Rule number 8, stop spending money frivolously. Bet on yourself by investing in yourself. If you invest in your mind and develop viable skills, you can then buy what you can reasonably afford. If you like gambling, think. You are not a gamble, and investing in developing your mind should be your best and soundest bet versus investing in others who don't provide a sound rate of return. Spending $100 a week on lottery could be better spent on increasing your net worth. The first thing we do when we come into a large sum of money is spend. Life in this economy is unpredictable. So prepare by investing in income-producing assets, cash flow management, is important.